Great.
Great. So, hi. Good morning, I guess, or whatever time it is when you're watching this. My name is Amit. I am with Norwest Ventures, a global VC firm in Palo Alto. We invest primarily in technology, and we are currently a $1.2 billion fund. And I have with me here Victor, who is the Director of Marketing at TaskRabbit. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about himself and about TaskRabbit.
Great, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, question here, Victor. TaskRabbit is one of the most successful companies, especially when you consider collaborative consumption. It's one of the shining stars here in the Valley.
Thank you.
What's the plan here? Where are you guys taking this company? How is it going to continue growing further?
Sure. I mean, it evolves day to day. This company has been growing by leaps and bounds, as almost by the minute. We've, over the past 6 months, raised 2 rounds of funding. The goal of these rounds of funding is to really help turbocharge our geographic expansion. As we've learned over time, the way that we grew our business was we spent a lot of time trying to find that right product market fit. We spent time iterating on the product, really getting it right in our core set of geographies. We raise this money now so we can take the learnings in these geographies and expand them into other geographies that match the profiles of the geographies we're in to sort of prove that model. And then above and beyond, then expand into other markets that are less similar, but that we still believe that we can address with the same product.
And right now the markets are?
Right now we exist in San Francisco, Boston, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Portland, and Seattle.
So dense metropolitan areas.
Dense metropolitan areas. Again, the thing about TaskRabbit that's interesting is that we're a hyper-local business. We are, by our very nature, a business that requires physical interaction at the local level. So it doesn't make sense to just launch this business nationwide because you need liquidity on both sides of the market. There's the TaskRabbit side, the side of the market that's performing the tasks for people, and the demand side for the people who are posting the tasks. So you need to make sure that both sides of that marketplace are vibrant before a marketplace will really take off. So we put a lot of effort into identifying the right markets first and are very strategic about how we launch those markets in order to provide the right kind of liquidity so that we can see a healthy growth pattern in the first 6 weeks, 5 months, year, to the point where it becomes a very vibrant market.
So is the idea basically there's a X number of metropolitan areas in the US, TaskRabbit has hit some of them, and you will expand to most of these X, and then perhaps internationally.
And to be clear, the goal is ultimately to have TaskRabbit nationwide. I mean, we do want TaskRabbit in every nook and cranny of the US because I think the value proposition is sound, and I think it resonates well with basically everybody. But again, in order for people to have a good experience on the site, you need to be able to successfully transact on the site. And the way that you get to the point where you're successfully transacting on the site is when there's critical mass on both sides of that, on both sides of the platform. So we don't want to open everywhere at once. So yes, to answer your question, we start in these highly dense metropolitan areas. Then we move into areas that might have slight less density, but that still have the same kind of profile. What spreads TaskRabbit is people's amazing experience with TaskRabbit. They use it, they love it, they tell their friends. And it's a lot easier for that to happen in dense metropolitan areas than it is in very sparsely populated suburban regions. Then there's the question of how you expand internationally. And again, the latest round of funding that we had was to explore all different avenues of geographic expansion. Expanding the product both within our current geographies, but also figuring out how to crack the formula to expand worldwide.
So what would prevent that? In other words, what are the big challenges or hurdles that you guys will face as you continue growing this business?
I wish I knew. We've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work in our key geographies. And so what we've tried to do is codify this into an operational playbook of how we launch new marketplaces. And so we don't want to just blindly turn on a new market. We want to very carefully set up the market. We want to very carefully prime the pump on both sides. So it's less of a turn on the switch, hope and pray, and see what happens. And it's much more of a well thought out, executed strategy to launch a new marketplace.
Sure. And how do you expect to launch these new markets? Is it launch many of them at the same time now that you have a base and a brand and trust built in, or is it still going to be more incremental growth?
A little from column A, a little from column B. I mean, we have because we are a platform where we capture a lot of inbound interest, we can actually see in advance where, what geographies are most primed for a service like TaskRabbit. And so the reason we decided to launch in Seattle before we decided to launch in Kansas City is primarily because we saw a lot of inbound interest from a place like Seattle. And so we put that high on our list. As we find places that generate a lot of interest, then we add them to the next spot in our queue. But that said, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to turn on a large number of geographies at the same time. It's just that the way we turn those geographies on has to be very well thought out and has to be strategically thought of. So we'll send people to prime the pump and get everything going. It's not just going to be a blind switch on.
Sure. Well, it's certainly hard to be an entrepreneur, and most of our audience is entrepreneurs, and I think they will appreciate a lot of the challenges you face and
For sure.
the opportunities also. And I guess just to end this interview on a more personal note, if you weren't doing TaskRabbit right now, what would you be doing with your life?
Me personally, I'd be trying to get a job at TaskRabbit. No, to be quite frank, I love TaskRabbit. My background, actually right before TaskRabbit, I was an entrepreneur and I'd started my own company. And when me and my co-founders ultimately decided to shut it down, obviously there's a lot of heartache that goes along with that. I mean, this is your baby that you've been working on for years. What I loved about TaskRabbit was the culture and the community, and this is why I really fell in love with the company and why I'm very happy to be working here. That said, I'm a very small company entrepreneurial guy, and I like to have my hands in lots of different things. So I think if I weren't doing TaskRabbit right now, if TaskRabbit ceased to exist, I'd probably try and go back and do that again. Probably try and start my own company. The company that I had been working on before was also in the collaborative consumption space, coincidentally. So it turns out that I have a passion for this idea of increasing overall asset utilization. So I'd probably try and start something in this space because I think it's going to be a game changer and something that changes the way that the world operates down the road.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur. So wish you and TaskRabbit all the best, and till the next interview, I guess.
Great, thank you so much.